Technology is everywhere, and for parents, there's always a discussion on how much screen time is good for my kids. What if there was another and even more important question? This is what our amazing guest for today will share with us in this episode. What if it's not just about screen time, but how you can ensure that using exactly the same amount of screen time, your kids can learn and grow? Welcome to the Mary Poppins of Startups live show. I'm Nali Makano from Athena Leaders, your host for the day, an organization that is passionate about helping startups deliver complex tech projects and launch their products whilst leaving behind the legacy of a happy and productive workplace playground. For those who are new to the show, quick reminders of our rules. We love it when you interact with us. We have Ben and Phoebe on the shows today. If you have any question about Plassroom, education, or even how to create a marketplace for startups, then put it in the chat. We will answer live or track you down on social media using the hashtag #AthenaLeaders. Rule number 2, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. In this episode, I'm really excited to have with us Ben, Chin, and Phoebe Lim from Plassroom. Plassroom is a platform developed by teachers to enable students, usually between the age of 4 to 15 years old, to learn online. Teachers can advertise topics in any language, and students can take all the courses that they are interested in. Ben and Phoebe, I'm really excited to have you today. And again, we've been trying to get together for this show for over about 6 months. And today I'm like, yes, my prayers have been answered. And I won't even talk about other health scares or other issues that happen along the ways.
Yeah.
Finally, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I really want to find out more about what you're doing because I think it's quite amazing because of the way you're marrying, education, something that's really important for the future. Screenplays that, as you said, in your marketing and everything I see online when I stalk you, you talk about this idea of screen time is always going to be there, but is there a better way to use that? And of course, the marketplace. But first, let's hear a bit more about Plassroom. What is Plassroom?
All right. Yeah. So hi, Nelly. Thanks for arranging all of this. It was a long journey, but glad to be here. And yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Ben. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Plassroom.
Yeah, and my name is Phoebe. I am also the co-founder and also the operations officer for Plassroom.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, what is Plassroom? So as CEO, I will delegate this to my COO.
Oh gosh,
I love that.
Wow, the art of delegation.
Oh
isn't
yes,
it?
very important.
Yeah, so essentially Plassroom is an online marketplace, and we have teachers host all kinds of interactive and engaging, mainly interest-led sessions for their children. We don't quite like to call them classes just because sometimes it can just be for fun. Like, for example, Ben hosts an amazing Minecraft club that children come together and play Minecraft together every week. And so, yeah, the sessions that we have are mainly from 0 to 16 years old. And and we also provide all kinds of tools that help teachers to list their sessions on our marketplace as well as host them on our proprietary platform. And this platform has been actually designed by teachers and parents' feedback for a really good and effective way of conducting online learning for children.
That's quite exciting, and in fact, Minecraft, even just the name Minecraft, is just a massive throwback. I'm sure that many young people probably don't even know what Minecraft is, and also, is it still installed by default in our computers these days?
I wish, we wish.
We're showing our age there. I'm never going to mention Snake or any of those kind of games.
No, it's a good question because Minecraft, I think when it came out, it was by a lone Swedish developer by Notch. His real name's not Notch, but he goes by Notch, and he created this like open world block-based pixel game. I think it came out in 2009 or 10. I can't remember the exact date. Sorry.
People used to judge you for playing that game.
That's right. Because back then everyone was more like, it's all about the 3D, the realistic graphics, And then I remember a lot of my friends and even my brothers used to laugh at me. It's like, what game are you playing? This like pixelated, it looks like from like 20 years ago. What are you doing? And before you know it, 20 years later, it's one of the most popular games for children, next to Roblox, actually.
Wow. And I guess, I won't even judge you. I'm a big fan of Minecraft. I don't know how many hours I spent using it. And again, what I love about games like Minecraft and there's some of the games that you have on your website is all about teaching young people without actually using the word teaching, which is like what you said in your introduction, Phoebe. Don't use the word classes because then it kind of reminds them of that structure 9 to 5. I don't know what time kids stop at these days, right?
No, absolutely. I used to be a teacher and also working in a nursery, and we always went with learning through play, and that's essentially the philosophy, the education philosophy I truly believe in. And by the way, hint, the P in Plassroom actually stands for play, and that was we started thinking, why did we go online and suddenly the idea of play and play-based learning suddenly disappeared, and all we are doing is a one-way communication with children. Most times we mute our children during online learning as well, which then defeats the entire purpose, isn't it? So then we say that children are not attracted to sessions and not attracted to classes, etc., which obviously I wouldn't either if I couldn't add in and be involved and play and engage. So yeah, no, that's a very, very important point to us.
Yeah.
And how do you make sure that children that come to your session can play?
Yeah, so it's through the sessions that we have available. So our teachers, we would say all credit to them because they are amazing. Our facilitators, they decide on the content of what they want to teach or what kind of classes they want to host. And oftentimes, I think, especially with schools and the rigid curriculum, teachers don't end up having that flexibility or that ability to be able to teach what they want, but rather when we're doing an online session such as this, they can decide on something they're truly passionate about, and then that's when you really see those elements shine through, and the session's so fun. For example, Ben's sessions, I teach calligraphy myself on those sessions, a very mindful session where children can calm down and also learn some the beauty of writing and all of that, and also other teachers who decide on those sessions on their own, and through that the sessions are very engaging, very interactive, and when you get someone who's really like enjoying those sessions, hosting the sessions that children potentially will enjoy or be inspired by, you can really see that dynamic between them where the children don't feel like the teacher is a teacher, rather that they chat with them as if that they were their friend or big brother type situation, which is really, really nice to see. I'm so glad to be able to facilitate these types of sessions on Plassroom.
Yeah, because the dynamics of, I think, where we're going with, I guess, in like technology, what we always talk about is about how can one serve more in terms of like maybe, one application can be used by millions of children, and then you don't really need a teacher, or maybe you want to empower a teacher with technology to maybe reach out to more children in the classroom because you want to maximize the time. But personally, we feel that for the children, it's, if you want to get engagement, you want to get the connection, even as a teacher, the ratio has to stay small, especially for younger children. That's why for us, our platform, as we target younger children, is always maintain that ratio, because then you're able to ensure the engagement level is there. The teacher is able to connect more with the student, so she's able to identify maybe a bit more strengths, a bit more weaknesses. So it's, in a way, it's personalized, because like Phoebe said, it's something that a teacher maybe, decided to, I really like fashion. There was a fashionista who decided to, hey, I want to teach math using fashion drawings. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I was like, wow.
Yeah, or a Lego facilitator, and she's got a whole loft that was filled with Lego behind her. Can you imagine? Like, especially with children, I think a lot of times parents also sometimes find that gap where, like, how do I communicate with my child? And the interest may not be the same, but rather if they come on here, they found someone that they can engage with, speak to about questions that they might want answered, but sometimes parents like us, we have no idea what they're talking about. You're talking about Minecraft, or we have no clue what they're saying. because I myself I never played Minecraft before, but you get what I mean.
Yes.
With all of these.
In fact, it's a bit like allowing the creativity of the teacher to come back again. As you said, the P in Plassroom is about play.
Yeah.
And yet the teachers, they've even forgot about play in the way that they teach. And through your platform, you are helping them reconnect with play, creativity, so that they can really help the students also discover that it's okay to continue playing whilst I'm learning.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. And that's if we are able to do that, then our job here is done.
I'm sure that from what I've seen so far, you are doing an amazing job. But talking about the platform in terms of the interaction that the teacher have with the students, is it when you talk about the marketplace, what kind of challenge that you have in terms of attracting teachers? So just to give a bit of a context to the listeners, whenever you are in a startup creating a marketplace, there's always this push and pull. You want the parents to come with the student to attend your sessions. You also want the teacher to come use your platform to advertise their own sessions. Yet if you have too much on one side and not enough on the other side, it can pull a bit of constraints in terms of will the potential customers, in terms of parents, come back and give you a second chance if there's not enough teachers. And the teacher might be asking, it will take me some time to create this material for your platform. Will it be worthwhile in the long run? So how did you navigate this pull and pull that a lot of entrepreneurs feel when they build a marketplace?
That's a great question, Neely, because I think even now, I wouldn't say we've fully cracked the code. We're still learning as always.
Yeah.
But definitely the learnings we've had, I think when we first launched, when we were just reaching out to a lot of users on both sides, and even feedback from a lot of mentors or like people in the industry, they always said teachers are going to be the bottleneck because it's very hard to actually convince them to come on the platform. But funnily enough, when we actually launched, we had way too many teachers compared to students.
A good problem, I suppose.
Yes.
It was an easy pitch, if I may say that, for the teachers. The fact that we understood their problems and understood the issues that they were going through, in relation to tech, in relation to the support that a platform gives to them, in relation to commissions because of the different types of, I suppose, platforms out there, and even just the idea of flexibility, being able to decide exactly when I want to teach, what I want to teach, and whenever I want to teach, is already a very, very big selling point that immediately the teachers connected and understood that that they like to be part of it.
So that's why it was. And also Phoebe is a good, convincer. Yeah, she was
I don't know about that, but I do empathize because I think, like, for me as well, going potentially being a mom in the future and being a woman myself, I constantly I am worried what would I do once I have a family and once I have children, if I'm able to support myself, if I'm still able to work in a full-time role. And I think that's oftentimes a lot of issues that I suppose women do think about, and especially educators. I think a lot of teachers, actually, through data we found all around the world, have left the workforce way before their retirement age. Obviously, that is in line with a couple of reasons, sometimes with work-life balance, happiness, salary and wages, and starting a family. Like, once you go and take care of your children, what are the chances that you'll be able to ever do a 9-to-5 job, I suppose? And that's where we wanted to come in and say that, like, you are able to flexibly do and teach whenever you want, so still able to use the skills that you've been trained and the skills that you have as a teacher, but in a very flexible way. And that seems to strike a chord with the educators in the market. So it's been really good. I wouldn't say I've done much, but rather just to empathize with the problems of educators.
See, it's a really good pitch, really convincing.
Definitely. Do you know what? I'm already thinking maybe I should just start a course on God knows what I'm going to do. Maybe I love dancing. Maybe I could do something about Latin dances around the world and encourage my kids. When it comes to teachers, and of course, I mean, by the time they meet Phoebe, they go through the speech, halfway through, they're already convinced. I think the next hurdle that might go through their head will be, who is a new platform? Do I have the time to learn how to use that, to include that in my courses? Do you have any example of story that you'd like to share with us of some teachers struggle and how you've helped them to kind of, use your platform to create the course that they wanted to deliver?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's tons of it. I
Focus on
could
one.
day on day. The main thing, because obviously most teachers will be using Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams. I suppose that's the usual video conferencing softwares out there. And the main thing with that is that, firstly, it's so fragmented. So from the customer journey of like just at the start, where they're starting to do marketing, that's a different platform and different things they have to learn. And then communication with the customers is another different beast altogether. And then doing the video conferencing, they're using another platform. And then potentially if you want to incorporate, and so like previously during the pandemic as well, there were a lot of apps, I suppose, like Kahoot and things that the teachers wanted to incorporate in their sessions. And depending on what topics you teach, you would require different tools. There was essentially no support whatsoever with that. And essentially you as a teacher will probably have to Google and find things online and figure it out on your own, potentially run a couple of tests on your own. And so that really increased the preparation time to unbelievable amounts of setting up a session. And then after that, if I want to send homework or feedback or set up another session, then that's again a double the amount of time. And so where we came in was actually to save those times that they required and put everything onto one platform. So all they needed to do was just go onto the platform, set up their sessions on there. And by set up, I mean like things like you're listing your class and putting the details, and also uploading some documents or whatever that you're using to conduct those sessions, and then potentially using some of our tools as well if you so require. We've got things like whiteboard, we've got things like some customizable games as well in the session. That you can use in the session, and by setting those up, and then also having the chat function to be able to communicate with the parents that have booked in, things got so much quicker and easier that it saves a lot of time for the teachers. And then on the parent side, we also want to save time for them. And so like things like automatically, as long as they click Let's Play, there's a button there on our platform, then they're immediately taken to whatever session that they have booked in, because obviously that's something we can do in the 21st century without having to send links and codes and all of that.
Yes.
And keep things very safe for their children as well, because apart from the people who signed up, no one else can have access to this session. And in the session they're able to interact and play, etc. So those are the elements I suppose that really helped the teachers and parents in their journey through online learning. Have you got more stories that I haven't thought of?
Well, no, the teacher one is definitely spot on, I guess.
I think just to give you a very funny, you might think it's funny, but it was
Go for it.
During my online teaching times during the pandemic, I had to literally print and laminate out a button to show what's the button called end call and what's the button that looks like mute, and to show the children, please click this, which is crazy, but it's
Wow.
I mean, you can see it's logical, right? Like how would I know what to do? And that effectively what we do now on our platform is that the teachers have complete control, and so they can mute anyone, change the screen of everyone as well. That the control completely lies in the teacher, and with that, the parents have less burden in that sense of having to sit next to their child. Along with obviously our engaging content, I don't think any parent has ever said that they had to sit next to their child or drag their child back to class ever on Plassroom, which was the main problem that we wanted to address.
So far.
So
what I love about what you've done so far is that you've really captured the end-to-end journey. I think because I work a lot with startups, helping them build their product, or how we work with the team to deliver our project. And one of the questions I always ask whenever I start engaging with startup is, what problem are you trying to solve? And most of the time, people focus on the technology, right? They focus on, I've built this piece of technology that will hook in there, which will be a platform that will allow you to come and deliver courses. Yet what they forget, or the question they forget to ask themselves in order to really solve the problem is, how do I make sure that someone can close their eyes from A to Z and I can tell them exactly how we're going to help them through the process, even if it's something that they're going to do, but we are holding your hands throughout. And as you are talking about how you set up Plassroom, I can really see myself. Again, I have no kids and no ambition of having any. But if I were to stay with someone else's kid when they're learning, then I can actually feel more secure because of from the beginning to the end. And as well as a teacher, this idea of knowing that all of the little bits of pieces in my head, I will go, how do I handle communication? How do I handle creating the calls? What if I need to mute the kids? All of those little details have been taken care of. So you get a nice little check on my book. But talking about workflows, and one thing that you've mentioned there, during the pandemic, there was a rise in video communication tools, or all the services that people were delivering, they brought them online. And as you can see, platforms like Zoom went through the roof, in addition to other platforms, especially those that were helping to enable people to hold conferences and large events, such as Hopin. Of course, coming on the other side of the pandemic, some of them have struggled to maintain the momentum, and Hopin, of course, as you know from the stories, is not looking very good at the moment. Is this something that has concerned you as well, bearing in mind that your platform is really to be used online?
Yeah, so definitely in terms of, I guess definitely we went like to two extremes. We went like from, we don't like online, then pandemic forced us to be online, so everyone has to be online. Then after we go back, it's like, okay, no more online, pandemic is over. So we definitely see the extreme shifts happening like And I guess, we're not immune. We've seen like Zoom, from the big boys to the small ones, like you mentioned, all the other startups that actually got a big boom. They definitely did experience a great boom in terms of like user acquisition and whatnot. But of course, now after the pandemic is over, air quotes, things have been slowly getting back to normal. So definitely it's a concern for us as well. But we know that in terms of what we're trying to achieve, because we're not a platform that says that we want your children to be online 24/7. No, we're not that. We still believe in face-to-face interaction. What we're saying is that there is a space for us, or maybe every online education tool for live classes, or even classes that is asynchronous, which is non-live. There is a period of time where I'm sure as a parent, and I see a lot with my brothers, with a child, it's like it's 6 p.m. Maybe your child's a bit bored before dinner, or maybe you want him to go for something, but you don't want to be stuck in traffic like for 30 minutes back and forth just because you're trying to reach to maybe an education provider or something fun and engaging for your son or daughter. So that's why the online space exists for this, this particular pocket of space, like maybe the 1 hour right after dinner or before dinner, maybe as a reward, maybe play Minecraft together. Hey, it's me again. And then and then maybe before dinner, maybe it's like a class that maybe requires a lot of tools that maybe a school doesn't have, on a usual day. So for example, I think one of our teachers does like baking classes. And it's really fun. And for baking classes, of course, for younger children, you don't use everything, but sometimes you need to prep for stuff, you need the space, and it's not all schools will have this. So we know that for like online education, there's definitely like that sweet spot that maybe is like 1 or maybe 2 hours a week. We are not saying that even with a super engaging tool, imagine we have the budget of Zoom and then we're gonna go like, whoa, metaverse for children. Well, that's like, no. We're gonna say no. Face to face, still the best, no doubt. But definitely there's a pocket for this.
Essentially, if YouTube Kids can still survive through the pandemic, then there's definitely a space for us. In fact, we're even better than YouTube Kids. That's what we claim, just because there is that interaction with someone or more people, like as they are interacting with other children, there is that social interaction, and that's so important for children nowadays, isn't it? And it's actually one of the principles that actually differentiates between beneficial screen time, which we just spoke about, and not so beneficial screen time is the fact of like whether the child is active or passive. Well, it doesn't even need to be children, but even us watching a recording versus actually interacting in a video conference makes a whole lot of difference in terms of the retention of the knowledge as well as their engagement levels, and that them being to love learning, I suppose, is really there. So that's where we say that we do have that space, regardless of whether the pandemic starts or ends. We will, always have that little pocket where to be just a little bit more useful to parents as a resource for additional activities for children.
Because a real example that we still see is, there's a school near us. I can't disclose which school, but there is a school near us that they really like their coding classes. They really do. So what happened was, I think the provider could only do one term, and then they couldn't do the next term. So the follow-up term, and this is in London, it was so difficult for the parents to find a provider for that particular time slot for the age group. So that's why then they started exploring alternatives. So then it suddenly became a conversation of, hey, you do Minecraft sessions? Do you do Minecraft coding? And then and now I'm doing some classes, but but definitely there is that space there, because sometimes as teachers or even as like facilitators or even play buddies, you always sometimes to hit that minimum threshold. Or maybe because you're just locked geographically. So that's why there's always this mismatch. And we see it everywhere, really, even more so in the outskirts, because maybe there's no Lego teacher there. So again, online is not better than face-to-face. Never. But if you can't help it, maybe, just to sacrifice a bit of, the face-to-face interaction, which you never probably had around you, why don't you go on Plassroom and look for a class that your son or daughter has interest in and connect with other children who have the same interest.
And summer is here, right? And a lot of parents will have that question: how can I make sure that my kids do something that's a little bit more than watching videos of other people playing a video game? Or it's a concept that's very new to me. Again, I'm saying my idea of playing video games is I am playing. My idea of watching something is I'm watching something that will either make me laugh or interesting, but definitely not watching someone play another game. But anyway, each their own. So if you wanted to, as you said, it's not so much about adding more screen time, but maybe an hour a day, your kids are at home, you need the time to maybe have a call somewhere with a client, you're working from home, or maybe you just want to have a nice long bath, right? Why not?
Coffee.
Yeah.
If you want to have a cup of hot coffee that has
exactly.
Genuinely, we had quite a few parents who actually said that, wow, this is relaxed time for me while I pay for. It's actually alternative childcare, I would say. Much cheaper, I would say, than an hourly rate of a nanny. Your child engaging, having fun, you know that it's in a safe environment as well. And I think we keep saying that because it's very important. I know like lots of parents are worried about online, is it really safe, etc. And so they tend to close off this idea. But essentially when we say that we vet our educational providers and also like the sessions that are conducted, you could watch the sessions too, in that sense, in the background, of course, and so you know that it can be a very, very safe environment for your children to have fun and make friends, really.
So now let's look at the two of you and how you work together and how was a Plassroom born. Of course, talking to you, anybody watching you now can see that you have this huge passion for helping students, and I'm sure that you both are children at heart, as so am I, which I think which one really So how did you what are some of the challenges that you've had whilst you were working on Plassroom together?
So I guess the biggest challenge when we were working on Plassroom is that neither of us have a tech background.
Yes.
I want to do a tech company. And everyone was like,
just two crazy people trying to do crazy things.
I don't know. It was a real challenge. I guess in terms of all the challenges, that was the biggest one, because we've never realized exactly how difficult it could be to actually bring an idea to a working prototype. We don't even talk about an MVP. MVP is another challenge altogether. It was, I think, very long back and forth because it was a lot of, because we're not subject matter experts in either area, right? So it's like when one co-founder says something and another co-founder says something else, it's like, how do we vet this? It's like, who's right?
And just to give you a little bit of a background to our listeners as well as yourself, Nelly, like myself, I'm trained as a lawyer. I have worked in a telecommunications company as a product marketer, as well as worked in the CEO's office. So yeah, I suppose you could say that I had minor experiences in terms of like the tech side of things, because we did launch a couple of digital products. And then Ben, you want to mention?
Oh, then I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm finance and investment trained. So actually, I have been spent most of my life and education actually in investment. Gaming and tech has always been like a side passion. So again, in terms of like exposure for like to build a tech product, it's very minimal. The closest we had is when Phoebe was in telco and she was doing IDMs. Was it IDMs?
What's that?
Oh, sorry, the like to roll out the tech stuff. What was it called? ICDM.
ISD?
ISD, something.
What?
Something.
I'm not sure
Sorry.
what alphabet C is throwing out.
And then when we were working on like the various stuff, because before this we were actually part of a health startup in the United Kingdom to help a vet clinic set up with like technology enabled, and I was in charge of that. And when we went to China for the British-based nursery, I was also as a project manager just managing tech products, but I was never like in the heat of it, and neither was Phoebe. So in terms of like trying to roll something out, speaking with like tech vendors, I remember again, if it's really silly or people can relate, we'll see. But I remember going on Upwork like when we first had this idea, and I think I connected with this developer, this like full stack developer, and then I was like, so passionate. We were like chatting with him. It was like, we want this, gonna do that and that. And he was like, so, okay, that sounds great. Can I see like your documentation and wireframes? I was like, let me get back to you. I never got back to him.
And I love this example because this happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
When I started working with one of my clients, he had an idea in the recruitment space for early careers, and it's actually a great, awesome idea. And he came to me and said, "Yeah, let's go work on this together." And then, like, just like we've done on Upwork, right? We're like talking about this, mission, we're gonna be this in not so many years. I'm like, okay, so can I see the requirements? He sent me one page of A4, and that page wasn't even full. So I looked at it, and funny enough, because we were on Zoom together, because he always reminds me of that story, and he's like, your face was so disgusted and professional at the same time.
Yeah, no.
I can imagine.
Because I look at it, like, how the hell? I mean, for me, one page is what I will need for a logging screen, which has two items: the name, the password, and a login. And for me, already, as an engineer, there's so many things that happen in the background. So I always love the stories when, say, especially non-tech co-founder staff building a tech product, and they're like, "Yes, this is what you have." Like, requirements? How many pages do you need? I'm like, how much time do you have?
Yeah, I would say that yes, no, I have seen product PDDs, like product definition documents and all of that, have worked a little bit on it, but it's definitely the first time that I'm actually coming up with something on my own. And wireframes, wow, that was really a learning curve. I do have some basic knowledge of Adobe products, but it's the first time that I had to create a prototype essentially of wireframes, and then have digital illustrations, etc. on it to show how it's going to look like, and then eventually having to learn like how developers think and do things, etc. That was absolutely a learning curve.
So whatever like stereotype about like non-techies becoming like into the tech industry is absolutely true. Okay? Absolutely true.
But we did it.
We survived. That was the massive learning curve. I think that was the biggest obstacle, because because from like education and feedback, we kind of know like target market, the problem we're trying to again, there was still a lot of learning. At least we kind of have an idea. But this part, we spent a lot of hours and a lot of back and forth, a lot of a lot of help from external people, like people who are well experienced, looking for a suitable tech vendor to actually build what we're trying to achieve, and then how to build it in stages. And yeah, I mean, it's something that I hope we never go through again.
Well, you say that now. Once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like the key bit. But again, the learnings from that, I think, is really immense, because you really see how everything ties together. Then you look at how, from like other tech founders, why just focusing, whenever they say just do one thing and one thing well, why that is so important. Because you really need to just put all your resources to just solve that one problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So if
thankfully,
you- go ahead, Phoebe.
no, just adding to it, like thankfully, because of how we've worked so closely with the education team, like myself, I was managing the education team and products from my previous work, and also managing like parent communications and all that. We knew we were very sure of the types of functions that we wanted available, and what's needed to make this work on the teachers' end, on the parents' end, on the children's end. And I would definitely say that that's very important in terms of like being co-founders, tech co-founders as well. This is probably not something that you can outsource. I suppose people do, but it would be very good for you to have in mind what you want for your product, and for then I suppose the dream to be executed in that sense. You definitely need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but let's look at the dynamic between the two of you when you first started. One question that a lot of people ask when they're about to start a venture together is the distribution of work. Who's going to do what? But of course, it's easy to say, this is your role, this is your role. But when life starts, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I know that there's no clear boundaries. Things get merged up and things get messy very quickly. So
Yeah.
how did you navigate this area of, this is my role, but sometimes it's not a very clear role?
Yeah, so because I guess, yes, you're absolutely right. I think that piece of paper, people always say, yeah, you got to, make sure the boundaries are there, and then you're very clear on like who is responsible for what. But yeah, once the working starts, it doesn't matter what piece of paper, right? So for us, I think it was important because we work together quite closely even before we started on this venture together. It was in also startup culture, so it was more of just fight the fires, really. I mean, I can't think of a better analogy than that. Just fight the fires, really. So we kind of knew the dynamics of like, from corporate responsibility, we have very clear separations of who does what. But we already knew from prior experience, the 2 years of working together, is that we just need to do what needs to be done. And then from that, we also kind of knew where our strengths and weaknesses lie. So I'm more, I would say I'm more like strategy, maybe more finance, projections, and a bit more for like tech stuff. And then Phoebe, her strengths are, I'll let Phoebe speak for her strengths. It's only fair.
Yeah, I think the marketing as well as the operations, in the end, we do see a difference when someone who's of, I think, similar wavelength, speaking to the teachers, especially with like teaching, my teaching background, and then speaking to parents as well, understanding what they need and want for their children makes a whole lot of difference. So I found my strength there, and as well as marketing, because I do enjoy the creative side of things. So that somehow naturally became where he does more of the like.
It's true. Because in terms of complementing our weaknesses, it's quite good. Because I am terrible from the creative side of things. Terrible. I remember I was doing a class with some Ukrainian children, and they couldn't understand what I drew. I drew a dog. I'm not but I remember everyone said, "Moo? Cow?" I was like, "No."
No, can't you see that? Is it
So embarrassing,
Yeah.
but they have fun. But the point is that we kind of know that our skill set kind of overlap, which is one of the main reasons why we actually decided to do this together as well. Because we kind of knew that for all our strengths and weaknesses, if we did it solo founder, solo venture, it was always going to be a bit harder to find a team member that kind of complements your strengths and weaknesses. But then, thankfully, because we've been working together, we kind of see like where we are really weak at is, I guess, for me, creative side, Phoebe is not the strongest in terms of finance. So it was a really good compliment as well. And because, like Phoebe mentioned, she's really at the heart of the problem. I mean, I was also part of I understand the market, the children and the teachers, but she's the one who was like really the thick of it, like from like parent, teachers, children, and she just can really relate with that. So that's why we felt like synergistically, you have like someone who's like away from it and someone who's like really thick of it. So we thought it was a really good compliment.
Yeah, and I think that is really interesting because that, like what Ben said, how we complement each other. Sometimes when you're too operational, aka me, and too on the ground, you sometimes don't see what's up there. And it's good in that sense. Then he would remind me like to, okay, hold on a second, let's take a pause and look at the big picture, or vice versa, because then he could have his head up in the clouds, and I'll have to pull him back down. So in that way, somehow naturally it works well, I guess.
Yeah, that's what well, of course, it's not perfect, Lily. It's always of a learning curve, and it just keeps learning as we go on.
And we're still looking for other people in the team to join us.
Join this fun dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. I think anyone who's out there looking for a space, working for an exciting startup, highly recommend they join you. And like you say, there's nothing that's ever perfect in the startup world. It's pretty much a learning curve. And by the time you do your second startup, you'll be fine and flying.
I hope so.
I want to say that.
I'll be the first to call you.
I'll be here. We have a very interesting question that came through the chat from Kerry. We're just going to put on the screen. Do you think there is a space for non-techies with MBAs and other experience to transition into the field? And by the field, I mean starting your own non-tech startup. This is what I'm assuming, Kerry. If you have more context, feel free to put it in the chat.
To join a tech startup? Or
I think I would assume it would be about launching your own tech startups.
Absolutely. I mean, look at us.
Yep.
Definitely. I think everyone has a part to play, and sometimes I love to also speak with others who are friends or colleagues joining the startup world. In that sense, I always say that don't sell yourself short. Just because you don't have a tech background doesn't mean that you don't have a space. In fact, that's possibly why the techies need the non-techies and the non-techies need the techies to make the world go round, isn't it?
True.
So no, definitely. And if you're interested and passionate in something, I definitely say go for it. And a lot of things we had to learn on the job or upskill ourselves in that sense. So I think 100%, if you do have the passion for it, it helps a lot in that way. But expectation set is that, you will have to learn. But that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. Especially if it's the technology that is not like the focus of the product, because there are like tech companies that the product is like, it's cutting edge. It probably, 0.1 second to 0.05. Or sorry, I'm not a techie. I don't know what I'm saying sometimes. But it's not like something that you need like a pure technician to be able to like then deliver that product. If it's something that you feel that there's a space in the market, but maybe technology that is already existing in the market, which is kind of what we did. There was already technology in the market. We just felt that it was not actually focused to actually address the online education market. So we're just like putting bits and pieces. It's like we didn't create like a new thing. It's already there. We're just like pulling it together, see what works, and then after it going from there. So if it's not the main focus, I don't see why not. But the thing is, everyone always says that the tech style is more about the mental, the drive and all those other things. But to answer your question, I mean, go for it. If it's something you're passionate about, go for it.
This actually reminds me of like a really funny scenario that we had, a conversation that we had with our developers, our developing team, when we were creating our MVP. There was one time I think we wanted to create and we designed the platform as such. Like, for example, when I mentioned to you the controls, the lack of control in the participants and all the control held with the host, they were like, why?
Oh, yeah.
We don't understand how could you do that? Because which
like,
participant would ever not want to end call, and like you must have that. That's necessary. And that's when like a non-tech person like myself, or like maybe I would say a little bit more subject matter expert in terms of the customer experience and the target market that we're going at, being able to add to it and say that no, this design is actually better because of a few various reasons, and that's when we see that how we can contribute as a non-tech person, non-techie, in this space too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. We also have another message from Carrie
Thank you.
saying exactly what I wanted to know. And congrats for what you've accomplished. You guys are also so honest and fun. Thanks, Carrie, for
Thank
the message.
you.
And I share the same view. You guys are very, very fun, and it's been a really good interview. And just to add to Carrie's thought, I think an MBA, whether it's an MBA or not, but your background is very, very important. And I did if you look back into my channel, you'll see videos on how to get your first founding team and co-founders. And if you watch those videos, they will help you understand where you're coming from, a tech startup or non-tech startup, and what you need from the other. People assume that tech people are great to build the tech startups. There is a slight advantage there. They understand technology, but they still have a huge disadvantage, is that they have to navigate a world that they might not be familiar with, getting investment, sales, business development, marketing. Likewise, people coming from the other side, of course, you might say there's a disadvantage, but they also do have an advantage. So I wouldn't say that there's anybody who have it 100%. Your first startup will be your journey, and then after that, the next startup, you will fly much quicker to begin with, but you will still have challenges. I think this is why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why we have to work as a team, right? I think that's the main idea. And we're so fortunate to be able to be a team or mentors or colleagues. Even Nayli, thank you so much for some of your advice previously as well, and just being able to chat with like-minded people really helps in terms of learning and also getting knowledge to help with the next step, whatever that might be.
Yeah. And if there's anyone out there watching this and really wondering about what it takes, especially if you're coming from a non-tech background and you want to speak to someone from a technical side, do feel free to connect to me. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I always answer live if it's an extended question, or I just send you a message on LinkedIn. That's fine. And I'm sure that you can also reach out to Ben and Phoebe. They'll be more than happy to help. If you have young kids and summer is coming and you're wondering, oh my God, how am I going to entertain them? Just download Plassroom. Remember, the P stands for play. Your kids won't be bored. They will play and learn in the process. Phoebe and Ben, it's been a pleasure. And of course, the conversation is coming to an end. What is next for Plassroom?
Oh, that's a good question. So at the moment, what we're trying to achieve is feedback's been great. Parents love us, children love us, and now we're just trying to reach out to as many children as possible. So we've been approaching schools, because we know that some, especially since the pandemic is still fresh in everyone's mind, a lot of the after school providers actually have to go online. And some of them have actually left it there because they think, oh, okay, there's the challenges like we mentioned earlier, but then there's that benefit there as well. So we're just trying to expand our reach and just let people know that, hey, you can host it on Classroom. We're here to help. If your child wants a Minecraft class, call me privately. No. Just come on Classroom. And, we're just here to help and just expand and make sure that, children, whatever interest they want, there is someone out there who has the same interest with them, and you can learn together.
Oh, brilliant. Well, again, thanks again for coming on the show today. We will put comments, and we'll also have a transcript of these episodes. So if you want to find out more about Plassroom, which I highly recommend, do go out and check them out. In the meantime, let's design a happy and productive workplace playground together.
All right.